Ayurveda is a compilation from the Atharva Veda. It is the healing system from ancient India. But did you know Ayurveda was not just used for plant medicine to heal the human body, but in ancient times, medicinal herbs were also mixed in with organic, sustainable plant materials and then mixed with lime, clay, mud, plaster, jaggery, ghee, so many things. And this was used to build the walls of temples and homes and cities. Some of these temples are still standing. Ayurvedic architecture is a style of design that incorporates Vedic and Vastu principles into city planning, into home planning. It takes into account natural building plant materials, living and breathing spaces that are an extension of our mind and body. So you should have knowledge of color, and the home should blend it with the environment. It should give back to the environment rather than impose on the surroundings. The idea is to live with nature and not on it. Ayurvedic form of living in architecture aims to balance the Pancha Mahabhutas: space, air, water, fire, and earth within a home. The center part of the home is called Brahmasthanam, which is the empty sthanam. So if you were to look at the center of your home and just draw a line, a circular diameter along it, then we have the 8 and 10 directions. I'm not going to get into that. Today we are talking about the plant materials, the materials, sustainable materials that were used. Ayurveda says whatever our 5 sense organs associate with, it starts changing our inner energy. We start changing from inside out. Our cells start changing, energy start changing. When we eat things that do not suit us, or we do eat things that do suit us, we start becoming what we eat. We are what we eat. Through our eyes, we see the world, the others. We see electronic, TV screens, the phones. We see the good in the world, the bad, the ugly. And then whatever we see influences us. We are becoming what we see. Whatever we hear, whatever we listen to, the music, the talk, the people around us, the family, again, electronics, podcasts, dare I say, we start getting influenced by what we hear. We become what we hear. Whoever we associate with, friends, family, community, we all incorporate their karma and mix it with ours. We become who we associate with. Whatever we think about and meditate on, it starts influencing us. We start becoming that, if not in this life, in next life. Wherever we live, we start incorporating the qualities or defects of our living space inside our body, inside our energy, and into our karma. In other words, we are where we live. According to psychiatry.org, if you live and reside in modern urban areas, urban cities, and there's a lot of noise, there's a lot of traffic, there's not enough walking space, there's not a green cover of plants and trees or parks, not having a way to communicate with your neighbors, basically lack of meaning in life and just being stuck at work, home, TV, this lack of active, green, social, and safe space may lead to increased risk of mental disorders. This can include anxiety, depression, and a lot more of other things. Research using functional magnetic resonance imaging has identified changes in the brain, indicating that urban upbringing and city living are linked to social stress processing. Actually, we already know this. The home that we live in is an extension of our mind. Ayurveda says, you are what you eat, you are where you live, you are who you live with, you become what you look at, you become what you associate with. So we are taking up the environment, state, city, country, that affects our life, our wellness. Natural, sustainable architecture seeks to minimize the negative environmental impact of buildings. I just kind of copied this through, one of those sustainable architect websites, but it was a good one. You use materials that are natural, that are energy efficient, and a very good use of space. And it's a very conscious approach to Mother Earth. So in Ayurveda, if you are looking after Mother Earth, she is looking after you as well. There are 4 types of Ayus. Remember, Ajita? Anything. 4 types of lives lived. Hitayu, Hitayu, Sukhayu, Dukhayu. It is life lived in an auspicious way, a hit inauspicious, a dukh, suffering and misery, and so mixed bag, right? Yeah, right. So when we live with nature and we are synced to nature and we do sustainable things, Mother Nature sees that. Mother Nature is a person. She's a sentient being. She sees that and she kind of, gives back. The law of karma in here as well. So by living sustainably, even if we live sustainably or use sustainable or, I don't know, try to drive a hybrid, something, composting, whatever. So a life that is lived like that will give us good karma, will give us less diseases, right? It's a very conscious approach. So, and also we leave the planet nicer for our children. I mean, if you think about what we have done, this is part of Ayurveda. Ayurveda is science of life. It is not just healing. It doesn't just come from eating and herbs. It's from where we live. Our environment is 30% responsible for our health. Do you remember ever walking into a house or a building and you just instantly hated it? It crawled up your arms, this feeling, and you had to get out of there. It's just something about it, something energetic. You had to get out of the house or a building. There are people who start a new job and the building doesn't agree with them. The house doesn't agree with them. The office doesn't agree with them and they quit. There are students who will quit college if the dorm doesn't agree with them. And there are also places that you just walked into, a house or a building or a home or an office or a restaurant, and it's just amazing. It pulls you in and you don't want to leave. So we already have a home inbuilt radar for detecting good and bad energies from buildings and our environment, don't we? All right, what is Ayurvedic architecture? So Ayurvedic architecture incorporates sustainable building materials where things are made of natural materials that lets you breathe, things like mud and clay and plaster. I'm going to give you some examples. For example, ancient Ayurvedic clinics, Vaidyashalas, were made of medicinal herbs, lime, and then the gums that ooze out of the bark of trees, and potato starch. That was mixed into the lime, plaster, and whatnot. And then they would use things like natural dyes, like red clay, to construct. They would add herbs that would let you breathe, your prana hashotas, your respiratory tract, and they would also add fragrant things in it, things like frankincense and whatnot, make it very fragrant. That is one example of this. Another very simple example. If your house does not have, not using asphalt and, having a green cover and plants on all the four sides of the house, having green on all the four sides, it traps heat, it prevents soil erosion, right? So it is good all around. So that is two. Another example I want to give you, some natural materials that can be used in the house per Ayurvedic architecture, and they're already popular. For example, the most popular one is bamboo. We call it Vamshalochana, very good. Bamboo, timber, cork, coconut straw, coconut tree. Then using herbs that are natural fungicides, they clear the pollutants along with lime and mud, and even fruits and fruit and vegetable juices, figs, cow urine, gobar, for cow poop is actually also used. It's also used for gas and fuel in India right now. So incidentally, in China, they used sticky rice and shells and bones in their building. It totally makes sense. There's a temple in India called Vadakunnatham Temple in Kerala that use this shells, herbs, and jaggery, and so on. And this was scientifically observed. And there's a very famous temple called Padmanabha Swami Temple. And they have used local plants, local cactuses, and jaggery, and they've fermented it. And how do we know that? Because an old ancient manuscript was found. That's how we know that. So the point is, the modern building materials, which, basically they trap heat and they give out heat, they lead to climate change and cause these heat domes around us. And, we are in the middle of heat right now, and there's heat dome in the west coast of US. There's a big heat dome in northern India, for all I hear from the news that is coming from India. So that is an example of Ayurvedic architecture. Yes, Ayurvedic architecture is also kind of married and part of Vastu. Vastu is like the feng shui of Ayurveda or India, or you can say Feng Shui is the Vastu of India. But in Japan, the way you do building is called Feng Shui. I may not be pronouncing it right, so please forgive me. And of course, in China, it's called Feng Shui. In Ayurveda, it's called Vastu. But Ayurveda takes part of that Vastu and incorporates it as part of healing in the Ayurvedic architecture. Hope you enjoyed this short and sweet podcast. Let me know. Thank you.